Okay, so a quick recap on what we've done to date on your project. So by now you should have access to your project, and that would be semester 2, MC2, or your name MC2. What we've done in class is we added the classification. So make sure you get that done by clicking on metric, and then add the classification by clicking on import over here. I've re-import here because I've already done, but you'll have to click import. Navigate to where you save that. In my case, it's here somewhere. Project 2. So that classification template. So once you add that, you'll have access to the National Standard Building Elements. You've done this before. So I'm just going to go back a few steps. Click on Home. Then the next step is to add the drawings. Again, if you want to get a recap on that, look back on your first semester videos. But you'll click on that. I have them all in here. You'll click Upload File, and you go through the process of adding a number, adding a version, doesn't matter what you call it, adding a number to the drawings, and then adding the name of the drawings. And you can put a tag to the drawings as well if need be. So once that's done, I think you're pretty much ready to go. You have to create a package just like you've done in other files or in other projects. In my case, I've called it Project 2D. So I'll click on that. And the first thing that we did in class is we took off, if I click on the ground and first floor plan, and you'll see it there come up, we took off the gross floor area, or the gross internal floor area, I suppose, is the most applicable. So you'll see there that there's an area measurement on the inside face of the external walls, and also up here on the first floor in the office area, because of course this is double height and it won't get measured on the first floor. So just that area and that area, and we've got a total of 239. The other takeoffs we did as part of the first tutorial, we measured the footprint, which brings us to the outer edge of the foundations. So that's that one there. I also measured a couple of kind of, I suppose, additional outputs. If I click the edit there, I measured the perimeter. That's the area of the footprint. We measured the perimeter by typing in perimeter formula there. We measured disposal of topsoil, so it's area times thickness. And then we multiplied or measured an additional output as area times depth to get the actual cut. So you can't use two different, I suppose, units or two different numbers in the same user input. So you have to create a separate user input, even though they're really the same thing, the depth and thickness. The depth applies to the volume for reduced level, and then the default thickness applies to the topsoil. So we're getting two different volumes there. So you can create two different volumes within the same measurement. So I'm just going to go back there because I've measured. And then we measured the ground floor area. And I suppose the thing with the ground floor area that's different than what we measured with the gross internal floor area is we measured kind of three different sections to it. So you can see that one there, another one here, and then another one here. And that gives us the opportunity to measure some kind of vertical areas here in terms of DPC, dress DPC. You can see it there. So perimeter, then we've got our concrete slab, then we've got our hardcore and our vertical insulation. So you're going to have to try that yourself if you missed the tutorial, but that's at least a little quick recap of what we did in terms of measuring the ground floor area. We're following what's here, and you can pretty much follow this yourself. We did the footprint, we did the ground floor. The bold lets you know exactly what you need to measure by selecting the icon, whether it's an area or length, and then the perimeter could be the first. There is the first input, and then we got these additional inputs. So what we did today, and just to give a quick recap on that, we measured some strip footings and we measured some rising walls. So I'm not going to do everything we did today, so you got to come to class. But if I just jump back in here, I'm going to add a takeoff. And let's put in the name here. What was it? A strip footings. And let's say I want to do the 10151 here. Okay. Although I'm not sure exactly which one I have done there. Or do I have any of them in? I'm going to delete that rising walls because I'm going to show you to measure rising walls. Okay. Let me try that again. I don't have any foundations measured. So let me start with, why is that coming up there? 1015 millimeters foundations. Strip foundations. I'm measuring it as a length, And the first detail I need to add is, well, let's check, is the area. So the area of the foundation. Now, you could say surface area because it could be vertical area, but surface area, substructure 19 meters squared, and distance times height, but that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the distance I'm measuring, and up comes measured value, times width. And what's the width of my foundation? Well, I said it is either, you can put it in meters or you can put it in millimeters, 1015. Sometimes you put the 1015 in and then put the dot in afterwards. For some reason, it doesn't work when you put the dot in second. So that's fine, or as I said, 1015 millimeters in here if need be. That's the surface area of that. What's the next item I'm measuring here from a volume or from a strip footings perspective? Concrete volume. So next one, plus concrete volume. Always keep it in the same here, 1.9, because I'm measuring a substructure. Meters cubed, distance times width by height, and in fact that's probably correct. Distance, I could type it if I want or leave it. Distance times width, which I've already done, which gives me my area, times the height, which gives me my volume. Distance times width down height, and height is available for me in there. And the height of my strip footings, you can take a look at it yourself, but take it from me, the height of your strip footings are 300 millimeters. You can see your strip there. So let's put in 0.3. So happy enough with that, and that'll give me the volume of a concrete. There's also the volume or excavation volume to measure, if you can remember this from Fico's class. Excavation volume, and that is also, we'll keep it in substructure, meters cubed, and distance times width by height. But this time, we want to use a different height measurement. So to do that, we'll go in distance times width again, which is our area, times a depth. So I'll change the last one from height to depth, and that comes in there. And the depth of my excavation is 0.55 or 550 millimeters. So it's from here, the formation level. Of course, this should be the other way around, but we're looking at it kind of vertically as opposed to horizontally. This 200 millimeters, then the 300 millimeter concrete, then the 50 millimeter blinding. So that's 550, if you can remember again from Faker's classes. What else do we got here? Formwork and rebar. Okay, so formwork, let's try put that in. Also meters cubed, we did this in class today, and meters squared, distance times height, and in fact that's what I'm looking for in terms of my formwork. I'll type it in, times 2. Now I can leave that as is, or put a bracket around the distance times height first, times 2. So that's either side, the distance of my foundation, which I'm going to measure, times 2, both sides of my foundations, times 300 millimeters, which is essentially what I put in there, the distance times height times 2. So I'm creating additional outputs here. And then there was the last one, and that was rebar, reinforcement, but for short, rebar. Meters cubed, again, down here, meters cubed, 1.9, and distance times width times height, which is actually what I'm looking for. I'll just type it in again, just to show you. Distance times width. What am I getting here first is I'm getting the volume. Now I could actually cut it and paste just to make sure. Distance times width times height. I actually typed the wrong thing in there. And there we go. Okay, distance times width times height, which is essentially what I put in here for concrete because it's off this height, times weight. Once I start typing in weight, is it weight by length, weight by area, weight by volume? It's weight by volume. And down here, I've got a weight by volume. So what am I saying here? Reinforcement at 300 kg per meter cubed. So I'm going to put in 300 in there, kg per meter cubed. And now I'm ready to measure my foundations. So it's a little bit long-winded, but once you've got one set up, you can use it for the other measurements as well. I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to click Start Takeoff. I'm going to turn off that ground floor because I don't want to see it. And then the 1015 one is this thicker one here. So from there to there. Okay, now I'm not going to measure into the pads because I'm going to measure between them. And then there's this one here. Okay, now that's pretty straightforward, right? or hopefully you followed me there. Now what I can, once I've that set up, there's two other types of foundations. There's the 900 wide, and then there's the 815 wide. So let me just click the three dots, duplicate that, change the color, always important when you're duplicating something. Change the name, even more important. 815, and then everything can change there, or everything can stay the same except change that obviously to 0.815. The default height will stay the same, the default depth will stay the same, the deep weight by volume will stay the same, and then everything can stay as is because they're just formulas working off everything that's in here, and all that's changing is the width. So I'm ready to start takeoff on that. That's all that I changed. I've changed the color, which is important. I've changed the name, and oh, that's a mistake. It's the 815 walls. So our 815 foundations would be from here to here, from here to, let's say, here, from here to here, and from there to there. Now you can measure through the center line, like go from there to there to there, but I'm registering the kind of length along one side, even though it's really the length of the center of it to here. And then I start from here to here because I don't want to double measure that corner. So you're kind of getting used to that by now. Am I missing anything? I am. Oh, no, I'm not, because that was that bit. And that's my 815 walls. And then you duplicate that one and do your 900. So just quickly, what I'll also do is I'll do rising walls. I'll do one of the rising walls, and we'll do them all now because we did some more in class, and I don't want to make sure that you come to class rather than rely on this. So let's start with maybe the 100mm blockwork rising wall. Okay, so that is pretty much, if you look here in the section, the rising wall up to DPC level, which is ground floor level, is 675 high. Now the inner leaf is blockwork, and the inner leaf is blockwork, and the outer leaf is blockwork, but it's blockwork up to here, then it's brickwork. So there's a brickwork plinth, essentially around the perimeter of our foundations, or around the perimeter of our, I suppose, outside walls. So I want to take account of that. Now there's a way of doing it, and the way to do it is essentially, well, first set up 100mm blockwork, get the name right, 100mm blockwork, rising walls. Okay, length, color, measuring the length, color. Start with wall area. In fact, that's really what I need. Wall area. Because it's rising walls, it's in the substructure again, and meters squared. So distance times height, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. But what is my height? Well, I'm looking for this 675 or 0.675. Okay. For the most part, I know there's this particular block in the outer leaf goes 450 high, and that's 225. So we'll adjust that at the end, in fact, or you can adjust it as you kind of go through it as well if you want. So start takeoff, 100mm blockwork walls. That's all I'm really looking for about my blockwork walls here over here, with my rising walls, 100mm blockwork rising length, and then a wall area. So even say there, it says there inner leaf 0.675, outer leaf 0.45. So how do you do that if you've put in a default height of 0.675 and some of them are 0.45? Well, I'll show you now. Start takeoff. I might just hide those footings. So start with maybe the outer leaf, and I go basically from here to here, from here to here, from here. So I'm just measuring around these walls. Now you can measure through the center line if you want. I kind of just go from edge to edge, and I always go outside, then back to inside because I don't want to double measure that corner. That's good measurement practice to do that. And that's all my outer leaf 100mm blockwork walls. Now what you can do is, if you want, and you can do this after the fact as well, you can click the little three dots, look at the detailed takeoff, and each one of those now are 675, but we know our outer leaves are 450. So let's change that 450. Now, as I said, you can change it at the end if you want, 0.45, 0.45, and 0.45. Okay, and then go back, and then we're going to measure. Click on the rising walls. We're going to measure these the internal leaf, which is 675, which will actually measure 675 because that's my default height. I don't have to go and adjust it. So that's a little bit to there. Now be careful with this bit, um, because that's a 2 and 5. So we want to start here. Now I'm doing it quick, so I mightn't be hitting right on the dots. And then I have these bits here. I measured that little bit there. That's okay. Up in the corner, these bits. This is what I did today. Capturing all the 100mm block work below ground. So hopefully that's everything. So if you wanted to check that, you could click the little three dots, detailed takeoff, and you'll note that some of them are 0.675 high, and then the original ones that you measured were 0.45 high. But you can go around, as you'll note, as you click on the different lines, they change color, and you'll know which ones should be different heights, and you can adjust them back there at the top. Okay, so that's 100mm blockwork rising wall, 62.62 meters squared, and don't know exactly what I did today. But if I wanted to measure, for example, the 2 and 5 rising walls, I could click the little three dots, I could duplicate it, change my color really quick, change that 2 and 5. Everything else is the same because 675 is my height. Start takeoff, and then here's my 2 and 5 rising walls. So from there to, let's say, there to there, double click, there to there. Let's say there to there. Then I'll go from here to, oh, I made a mistake actually. I'll get to it in a second. I'll just measure my, and then this would be, let's say, from up to here. So that's my all my 2 and 5. Oh, and there's these few here. Now I mightn't be getting the points because I'm doing it pretty quick. But you see that I measured that line there, for example, that I measured in the 100 blockwork rising walls. Make select that one. I should drop it back. It's not right to here. Okay, because that's a 2 and 5 block wall, not a 100. And then there's a little bit here that I should measure as a 100. Okay, there we go. And so see them all together, you could highlight them, make sure they're on, and make sure you've got them all measured. Of course, you've got the 100 brick as well. That's above that block, which will be the outer leaf times 0.225 high. And that is pretty much kind of a recap of what we did today: footings, rising walls. I'll do a few more next week so you can keep going, but pretty much you're on your own. You need to just keep going with all these measurements. I might do some external walls next week, and then you do the odd column or beam. So that's what we did in class today. So a little recap on that.